What is the first film that you remember watching?
The Flying Deuces, Lauren and Hardy film.
How old were you?
I was, as you know, born in Allahabad, and Capital Cinema hota tha ek wahan, Civil Lines, which was the main area, and that's where I saw it. See.
Where did the fascination come from then? Were there any particular actors or movies? I mean, how would it occur to you that you would want to be a part of the movies?
No, I was never inclined to join the movies. There was no such planning or anything like that.
Do you remember the first seed, the first idea?
When I look back, I would imagine that I was always very fond of stage.
Yeah.
And right from the kindergarten, right to the times that I was working in Kolkata, every year I cannot remember a single year when I wasn't on stage.
Yeah.
So I guess that was the only fascination with acting, in a sense, theatre.
Yeah.
And then while I was in Kolkata after finishing my education, my graduation, one day my brother showed me an advertisement of the United Producers Filmfare Madhuri contest. And there was a whole procedure where 5 or 6 very prominent producers, Shakti Sawant, Pranod Chakravarti, B.R. Chopra, you know, all the big people. They had formed this group called the United Producers, and they were looking for talent, and they had a contest, and they would do a regular screen test. They would give you moments to enact, and I felt that this was a very professional, right way of getting into the film industry. And so he said, you know, you should apply for this, and you know, you're fond of acting, so on and so forth. I said, okay, fine. So we went and took some photographs of mine with a still camera, and we sent it in and we applied. But we were rejected in the preliminaries. Every city had, there were I think 10 or 12 cities from like this.
And this is while you were in Calcutta, right?
Yeah,
so
while I was
Okay.
So that was a little disappointing. And then, you know, I just felt that, you know, now that I've applied for it, I was kind of interested in going into it. So I left my job and landed up in Bombay at that time, and went from door to door looking for jobs. Cinema was something that was, you know, not appreciated very much by the family and parents.
I would imagine.
Only cartoons like Cinderella and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and these kind of things we were allowed to see. But Lauren and Hardy was one that, you know, somehow we were allowed to go and see, because it was a comedy and, you know, fun. So,
other than that, what are your earliest memories of cinema?
I think I saw a film in Allahabad itself, the Hindi film, was one that had Dilip Saab and Dev Anand. That was the first and perhaps only time they worked together.
Okay, what film was
I forget the name now. And we all went in there to see it because air conditioning had arrived for the first time in Allahabad. Air-conditioned theatre.
Yeah.
And so just that attraction of what an air-conditioned theatre looks like.
Your milieu of professionals, your father's literary set, I'm sure movies were at least a slightly looked down upon. How did they take?
Well, I think in the overall attitude of cinema in general, that's not just my family or my father or my mother. It was a general conditioning for everyone.
But
the movies were in for take. They were considered not ethical, not worthwhile. People from not good homes were associated with it, and therefore, if you went and even saw one, you were likely to get polluted or corrupt. And that's what the attitude was. But my father and mother were very liberal. They've always been very understanding. And the moment I said that this is what I want to do, they absolutely agreed and accepted my desire to join there. And one of the things that my father told me after I got rejected in the preliminaries was that, you know, अगर किसी घर के अंदर घुसना हो और उसका दरवाज़ा बंद हो और जाना ही जाना है और दरवाज़ा न खुल रहा हो तो दीवार फांद के चले जाना चाहिए.
Who's the first film star you remember meeting before you became an actor?
Oh gosh, I can't remember. I know the person that I admired the most was Dilip Saab.
Yeah.
And he always remained with me from then and still is.
Did you ever meet him before you joined the film industry?
I made an attempt.
Just as a fan?
I was on a short holiday once with my parents in Bombay in around 1960, which is about 8-9 years before I actually came to the film industry. And I had no idea that I would join the film industry because I was still studying and I wasn't in Kolkata and I hadn't come across this advertisement. But on a holiday, our hosts took us to a restaurant somewhere. It was somewhere in that main area of Bombay, where all the big restaurants are.
This is in town?
In town. Okay. And we walked in, and there he was, Dilip Sir, standing talking to somebody, and I was... So I quickly ran and outside, and they said, you must get his autograph. So I ran outside, got an autograph book and all that, and I was waiting. When is he going to turn around? And I'll ask him. But he just walked away, and I couldn't get his autograph. I was very disappointed. And then when I got an opportunity to meet him and talk to him and eventually did a film with him, I told him of this, and we had a good laugh about it. But yes, he has been my idol ever since I started seeing cinema.
Oh.
And has always remained one. The other film that we all remember was, gosh, I'm getting old. It was a film on children in a school, and
an English film or a Hindi?
Hum laaye hai tufan se kishti nikal ke, that song was there.
Yes, I know which. Admi? Was it Admi?
No,
Not
no.
Admi.
There's something with P.
School, okay. So
Anyway,
it was,
yeah.
Okay.
And that we remember because that was almost very educational in a sense, because the kids were being asked to be very patriotic. And
this is not Dedi Hame Azadi Bina Khadg Bina.
wahi wale. That was with...
no, Admi was Dilip Sahab. This, I know which movie,
yeah.
But I can't remember. It'll come to us at some point.
Yeah.
Can you think of one thing that we don't celebrate enough about our movies?
There are people, I think, who have manufactured a certain terminology about Indian cinema. And I think that those adjectives need to be cleared up.
Okay.
One is the very name, which is now
Yes.
being commonly
Yes.
used, and I don't even want to
Yes.
utter it because I don't believe in it.
Yes.
It was, I think, created by an overseas group that was here wanting to make a documentary. And I feel sad to say that most of these groups that came from overseas to make documentaries were actually not wanting to record our history. They were really wanting to make fun of it. And in that moment, I think this word got coined, and now it has been shoved into the Oxford Dictionary, and it's going to be there for time immemorial. But that's horrid.
Yeah.
We need to get rid of that. The other word that is commonly used is filmy. Oh, wahan nahi jana yaar, wo badi filmy jagah hai. As though it's something, very rotten and negative, below any kind of class or degree or whatever you may call it. Why are these adjectives created on filmy? वो एक ऐसा घर था, वो बड़ा फिल्मी था, इसलिए मैंने खरीदा नहीं उसको.
Yeah.
So it's used as a bad adjective to describe cinema. I think these are some of the things that need to be forgotten.
Yeah.
And despite the criticism, despite the cynicism, despite whatever the elitists may think about cinema in general in India, there is need for the star everywhere today. I'm not just talking because I'm an actor, but look at, if you go down recently, in recent years, say past 15, 20 years, you'll find that the star value has played a very important role in most of socially promoted ideas, whether it is polio or cancer, or everywhere you require that face and that value.
It's a very
and
strong
they never
voice.
want to acknowledge that fact, but yet they can't do without it. And I often wonder why we are invited, because we're barely learning how to act, and then suddenly we have to make a comment on the political system, on some social norm. Most of us
and de facto ambassadors of the country.
Yeah, but that is all right.
Yeah.
But to suddenly give an opinion on some kind of a political change that's taking place, or a social reform that's taking place, and say, what is your opinion about that? We are just actors. We're not here to change the constitution. There are many other brilliant people who can do that. But the reason why you come to us is because that perhaps is what is going to get quoted.
Yes.
That perhaps is going to bring you your headlines, or is going to be the attraction for a reader, or for a listener, or for a viewer to catch the attention.
Yes. Can you think of a couple of people who you feel, movies, anything, who you feel that our cinematic history didn't give them their due?
The entire cinema in India and the entire industry has huge number of examples where none of them have received their due. And I really don't know what do we mean by a classification called given their due. I think for an actor, his greatest achievement is the love of the audience.
Yeah, perhaps memory. Memory is a good example.
Yeah, but if he is remembered by people, and if he is honored by people, and if people recognize him, that is his biggest achievement.
Yes.
I don't know in what other way you can give them their due, because many actors have been honored through the national award because of the films.
Yeah.
They've been rewarded by the Padma Awards, and there are many examples of that.
Yeah.
I guess
it could be something small, like somebody who's been a brilliant filmmaker, but his films are not as widely discussed or in the mainstream, or we don't see. I mean, in any way that you personally feel that we don't know why.
Well, that was one of the reasons why I felt that this medium that you're starting now and why we're sitting here is helpful in promoting all that.
Yeah, well,
because unless you get to hear these people and what they did and what their contribution was, other than the film, other than the film industry, the rest of the world is never going to hear of them.
Yeah.
And most of them do not.
Yeah.
Because the common man is still, just interested in his 3 hours of entertainment, and how it got there, who worked behind it, sometimes is not important to them.
Yeah.
And that's a tragedy, because no film is made without the extreme contribution of the people that work behind the scenes. And they're the real people. We are just fronts.
Yeah. Can you think of a couple of ways in which the industry has changed in the last 40 years that you've been around? Not the movies itself, but the industry.
Well, the working systems have changed.
Yeah.
They have become a lot more professional. I'm not saying that they weren't professional then as well. But certain
maybe
American
formal,
systems...
Maybe formal is like, have they become more formal? Is that what you mean?
No, not formal. There are certain systems in place which are akin to what perhaps Hollywood uses. And a lot of our directors, producers, actors are now training abroad at a very young age.
Yes.
And coming back with some sense of management, some sense of production, or how they should approach a film, or how it needs to be made, through some very recognized institutions overseas. That is good, and those practices are now coming into place.
Yeah.
Whether it is right from drawing your contract to how your production is going to take place, what the actor is going to do on set. These are several little things that have now come in.
Yeah.
And that's very good for the industry.
Is this also the good side of corporatization, you feel?
I'm not so sure whether corporatization actually brought this on.
Okay.
Yeah. Corporatization came on because it saw the potential of the corporatization of the Indian film industry.
And the government incentive, of course.
And of course, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But I doubt very much if there's going to be any government incentive that comes across to the corporates. I think it's more... The film industry in India is very unique in many ways.
Yeah.
I formed a corporate once, and it's still present there. But as a pioneer that started off this concept of it, I was laughed at in the beginning. How can you make a tie wearing a tie? How can you make a film wearing a tie? And ये सूट वूट पहन करके लोग आ गए हैं, ये इनसे पिक्चर कहाँ बनेगी? That was the idea, but today it's the corporates that are, in a sense, ruling.
Yeah.
It's unique in the fact that Indian cinema is more or less all shrouded under one umbrella. You want to make a film, you get a story, you get a producer, so you can be the producer. When you direct it, your direction remains there. Then after it's made, you distribute it, so you must have a distribution wing. Each of our films has 6 or 7 songs, so there's an audio side to it. 82% of film content is content for television, so there's a television section to it. And all of it is under one roof. And then you have these various tributaries, which are all commercially viable entities, but they all emanate from that one product, which is that film.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it's very unique. That doesn't happen in the West.
Yes.
The West has its own system of pop music and rock music and whatever else.
Yeah.
But our pop music is the one
Yes,
that comes out from cinema. So that's very unusual.
Yeah.
And that is why the need to corporatize it
Yeah.
and bring it all under one roof
Yeah.
and have professionals looking after it
Yeah.
and their ideas and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And now with the cyberspace and the internet, it's even more sort of versatile as far as the spread of cinema is concerned. CDs and music has just disappeared. Everything is now available on the net.
Yeah.
But what is most important is the content. If you have the content, you're okay. I went to the whole idea of the corporatization was formed when I was on a holiday in the United States of America. And I was there to do a concert, like, we do concerts, and I pioneered these stage shows right from 81, 82.
Yeah.
And obviously we had lawyers and stuff because nobody moves without a lawyer in America. And one of our lawyers became very friendly with me, and around the early 90s, he said, Amitabh, you should go back and start corporatizing and get your house in order because the Americans are coming. And I used to get letters from various big studios, Warner's and 20th Century Fox and Sony, wanting to meet me. And I said, why would they want to meet me? I mean, they don't even know who I am. I'm just another citizen of my country who's here on a holiday. But I just visited Warner Brothers one day, and one of their executives sat and spoke non-stop for 2 hours about cinema in India. He brought out a dossier which had every detail about me, where I was born, what I did, what films I'd done, who directed, everything they had, pat. And that's the time this chap said. And I used to tell when I formed the corporatization, or when I did the corporatization in ABCL, I told my executives that this is what's going to happen. And no one believed it then. But look what's happened now. We have every possible major studio functioning here. And this is the way they will enter.
Yeah.
And every time I meet these big corporate heads, I tell them, you've destroyed cinema in Europe, you've destroyed it in UK, you've got rid of Italian cinema, French cinema, German cinema, everything they've destroyed, Japanese cinema, which is so prominent. And now you're coming here to destroy us. But I think that it's going to take them a while.
Yes.
And it's not going to be that easy because our cultures differ.
We're always more resilient.
And if they were to bring one of their family dramas here, they'd have a problem. So only their Titanics and their sharks and their robots and things like that will work.
How's the experience of stardom? I can't think of anyone else who's been a star for, this long.
I don't believe in this.
No, but
I don't believe in stardom as such.
Sure, but it is an experience yet. I mean, I'm sure you have.
I'm just lucky that I've had a fairly long period of time.
Yeah.
It's 43 years. And it's...
but so
it's very heartening to know that there are still people who, who...
No, what I want to explain this because maybe you don't believe in it so much, that gives you the objectivity to look at it, to look at the phenomenon.
I don't know. I really don't know whether that is the right attitude to look at it that way. I wonder how the others look at it. I've never spoken to them about it because this is not something we talk about on set. But I wonder what they think. Perhaps you would know better what they think about it. So if you were to brief me on that, then I would be able to react to it. On my own, I just feel that I'm committed to a profession where I am an actor.
Yeah.
Somebody comes with an idea, a story. I look at it purely from the point of view of what I'm going to be doing in it and whether it's going to be a good story to make into a film, and I just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Now, all the other things are just frills, which I'm really not too interested in.
Okay.
I would rather, be concentrating on the character of the role, what I'm doing, and look at the fineries of that rather than whether this is going to make me a star or whether I'm going to be in some kind of a number race or whatnot. I've never looked at it that way because I don't know what it means.
Well,
Yeah.
But okay, clearly the media's proliferated, manifold. films are all over the media. Other than that, can you think of a way in which the interaction between stars and the media has changed, for the better or for worse?
The stars were more elusive in the early years because of the lack of communication through the medium of media.
Yeah.
Perhaps there was just one magazine that wrote about cinema.
Yeah.
Now we have millions of them.
Yeah.
There used to be one Filmfare award after many, many years. Now you have
one every month.
Every other day. You have 1 billion cameras now following you wherever you go. 1 billion cameras. Every phone, every mobile is a camera.
Yeah.
So there is a record of you irrespective of whether you want it or not. You step out of the house and you're sure to be recorded. So it's a problem for us because now they have, if they don't have information about your activity, they will take out special magazines on your dress or the shoes that you wear. Or, hey, look, I don't think I like his shoes very much, and they have a close-up there. So when somebody is following you, he's looking at your face normally, that used to happen, but now they start from the shoes, and then they go up onto the trousers and the shirt and the jacket. That's become of value to the media. I don't know. There are special magazines which have special issues which only talk about dresses that people wear.
Yeah.
So it's painful because every time you go out in public, you have to make sure, gosh, where did I wear this before? Because they're going to comment on this and say he has only one pair of shoes or whatever. But that's how intricate has become this whole business of media attention.
Yeah.
Cyberspace, whatever we're talking of now will be out in a couple of hours. I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
And that is one of the answers that you're looking for. The celebrity never had an opportunity to make a comment.
Yes. In his own space.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Whatever was conveyed to the public was done through the medium of the media.
Yeah.
And if the media liked you, you were a good guy. If they didn't like you, you were a bad guy.
Yeah.
It was all dependent on them.
That is a very key, yeah.
But now, I write my own news.
Yes. Yes.
I went here, I did this, I didn't like this, I'd like that. And that becomes a news item. So really, it's in a sense, it's become very easy for the media.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to visit me to know what I'm doing. They can just read my blog or my Twitter and make a news out of it.
Yeah.
That's how things have changed. I don't think that media is going to die. I think it's going to survive and it's going to progress even greater. I think everybody needs them because no matter how interested you are in the cyberspace and no matter how many millions of people are actually on it right now, and there's still millions and millions of more to go, for some reason or the other, the morning paper is a document which kind of justifies everything that is happening in the country and with individuals, and therefore that is believed.
Yeah.
So the only thing that has changed is, as I said, I now have an opportunity to contradict something which has been wrongly interpreted.
Yes. Yes, and that is
whether it is believed or not is another point, but at least I have the satisfaction of having clarified myself or given a contrary statement.
Can you name 3 songs that have always stayed with you, Hindi film songs that are not yours?
I've always liked Waqt Ne Kiya Kya Hasi Sitam from Gurudat's film, Kagaz Ke Phool. Most of Gurudatji's songs in all his films have been simply brilliant, and the whole film industry and the whole history of music and cinema has been filled with such great lyrics and great music. It's very difficult to spontaneously come out with 3 songs, but
any
but
other that you can
of that nature, songs of that nature have always.
Okay, and one of yours that
I've hated all of them, so it wouldn't be proper to name it.
All of them?
Yeah.
I mean, what about some from Rishikesh Mukherjee film? What about something from Millie?
They were all beautiful films, and Abhiman had perhaps
The best, yeah.
some of the best music
Yes.
that you can hear.
Yeah.
And that was because of the great genius of S.T. Burman. And it's still alive, and it's still relevant. And thanks to television again and the medium, we, in a sense, are perhaps more remembered than a couple of generations before us, because the television keeps us alive. They keep showing all our old films, and that's how we are still around, in a sense.
Yeah. We spoke about so many changes, sir. Were there any changes in particular that you found it harder to adapt to, that you took longer to adapt to, you feel?
There have been many changes, and I think that they've all been, in a sense, for the betterment of the industry.
Yeah.
Certainly the professionalism, the managerial capacity of all production houses, and most importantly, the opening of doors to the ladies, to the female in our industry.
Yes.
That was never seen before.
Yeah.
Earlier on in the sets, we never saw any ladies working on set.
Yeah.
Other than the hairdresser of the leading lady.
Yeah.
Or her companion. But there was, the woman power in cinema has become huge.
Yeah.
And their percentage is now a lot more than the male factor.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate greatly, because I think that women are 50% of the force of the country, their strength and their power and their thinking. And they need that position, and they need to be encouraged, and they need to be there.
Yeah. No, so I was wondering, were there any changes in particular that you took longer to adapt to? You know, I mean, as the changes came, were there any changes that you can think of that you were not very comfortable with, and it took you longer to get adjusted?
No, I never took...
long to adjust to changes?
I
would imagine, you didn't.
Whatever came, I just, accepted
Embraced
it and went ahead with it.
Yeah. But when you look back, we're talking so much of 99 years, 100 years. What do you think are some of the turning points in Indian cinema? Off the top of your head, that you can think of?
It's acceptability first.
Okay.
It's great acceptability now.
Yeah.
As one that has somehow been able to cross all these social barriers and now become so acceptable that every second youth in the country wants to come and join the movies. Families are more acceptable to cinema. If not cinema, television, or whether it is modeling, or whether it is theatre. I mean, theatre was always there, and it was considered a more refined art. It still is.
Yeah.
But just the fact that, it's moved away from that that stigma of being looked down upon.
Yeah.
That perhaps is one of the biggest achievements.
Yeah.
But I personally believe that every generation, or every, say, decade of 10 years or 15 years, gives us an opportunity to look back and admire what happened 15, 20 years ago. 15, 20 years ago, those people who were being looked upon as, doing something wrong by the ones that came 20 years before them.
Yeah.
So when, let us say, for example, in the late 60s or early 70s, when the so-called Angry Young Man, which was really looked upon as a social revolution, not by the actor, but by the writers, because Salim Javed thought that this was the time of great unrest and great upheaval within the country, and therefore the creation of this one man who would take on the establishment and so on. I'm merely a guy who was, just passing by and was asked to act in it. I never deliberately went out telling them that, we should change social norms, or we should, we're not those people. We're just actors. It so happens that the writers think like that. And the writers are impressed by what happens in the country. So when that happened, there were many purists of that time, or 15 years before that time, who felt that this was a lot of rubbish. And the kind of films that we made were not good. and were not of standard. We admired them, we still do. I would regret the fact that I never had an opportunity to work with, say, a Guru Dutt or a Bimal Roy or a Mehboob. As would perhaps some of today's generation regret the fact that they were unable to work with, say, a Manmohan Desai or Prakash Mehra or a Ramesh Sippy or a Yash Chopra, which were the times when I was working with them.
Yeah.
And this is going to happen in another 10, 15 years' time. People will say, gosh, I wish I'd, worked in a film with Sanjay Leela Bhansali or with Tigmanshu Dhulia or Anurag Kashyap or so many great films are being made now.
Yeah.
All these big commercial hits that Shah Rukh and Salman and Amir are churning out, every 6 months. I'm sure that they will have the same kind of reaction.
Yeah.
But for that moment and for that year, I think there is that initial hesitation of not acknowledging them because they're doing something new and fresh.
Yeah.
We talk about today the language not being there, the written work not being there. But if you talk to a modern filmmaker today, modern meaning of today's times, he will say this is the way our youth is talking. This is the way people are communicating with each other. And what has actually come into cinema is a certain sense of reality.
Yeah.
Of late, within the past almost a year or 2 years, some few directors have brought in a certain style of cinema which is still keeping in mind the box office, but with a lot more realism.
Yeah.
So you have, the Vicky Donors and Pan Singh Tomar and Gangs of Wasipur and Barfi recently, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
And I always feel that this is a fantastic period
to be a part
and
of.
I consider myself extremely fortunate that I have been able to be a part of each phase almost and just enjoy what came my way.
The one thing, if that is most remarkable about you, is the way in which you have never let your legacy become a trap. You have never let it imprison you in the past. Younger directors and actors who work with you today are perhaps much more hung up on your past than you are yourself. This is a very difficult baggage to shed for anyone, let alone someone like you who's been part of such exquisite glory. Was there any mental rigor involved in shedding that baggage constantly of the great past?
I don't know if it's great. You're talking about it.
But it's spoken of as great, you know that.
But I don't talk about it because I just feel it's done, it's over. I must look for a job tomorrow. But how can I look back on it and say, yeah, I did some fantastic work? That would be just so stupid of me.
So it's not so easy because you know that a lot of your contemporaries, for example, because they couldn't move on, they couldn't reinvent themselves. It is not an easy thing to do for anybody, not just actors.
No, I think that this is a fallacy.
Yes?
I don't think that this is entirely correct. All my contemporaries, Shashiji, of course, is indisposed, but Shatrughan Sinha, Vinod Khanna, Dharamji, Jitendra, they've all moved on. They're still functioning and very well. Shatru and Vinod still do films. But they not only do films, they went into politics. And they achieved heights which they became ministers in the cabinet. Dharamji is still working in films. He's just given a super hit with all his family and his 2 sons.
Yeah.
Jitendra has established this massive TV company, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So you can't really say that,
That is a very optimistic way of looking at it.
No,
yes.
it's not. It's the fact.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
But what about what Marquez calls the charitable deceptions of nostalgia? We're all prone to that. It's not just about stars. It's not just about past glory. Are you completely immune to that?
I can talk about it. I can, if you were to ask me,
But does it affect you? I mean, is it something that you go back to? I mean,
no, affect me in what
the
way?
longing for nostalgia is the longing for past.
No. I mean, I would long to work with some of the younger generation now. I would love to work with some of the new stars. I'd love to work with Ranbir and Pariniti and all the youngsters. And I've already worked with Sujoy, and I hope he takes me in his next film again, because he made a wonderful film in Kahani.
Yeah.
And Shujit and me have already done a film, which unfortunately is not getting released, but he did a wonderful job with Vicky Donor.
Yeah.
And I'd like to work with Anurag Kashyap and Tigmanshu Dhulia and all these wonderful people. And I look forward to that. I don't go back to see, because that's not going to be relived again. I can't go back in age. I'm now 70.
So is there nothing that you miss at all?
Of course I will miss my association and the times that I spent with them together.
Yeah.
But not in the way that you're wanting me to miss them.
I am very glad you don't miss them. I am very, very glad that you're in the future, not even in the present. So, yeah, that apart. But I remember watching an interview of yours in BBC. I think it was an 83 interview, in which you were speaking about, the video had just come in, and you were talking about how if the government, if there isn't proper legislation, that this could be very dangerous for cinema. Do you remember any points where you were concerned maybe about the future of Indian cinema?
No, I've never been, ill-concerned, let us say, about the Indian cinema. Okay. I know that it is such a potent force that it will survive irrespective of what happens. Many obstacles have come up, but we've always ridden them. And that's primarily due to the fact that the people of the country are so fond of this medium.
Yeah.
But they will keep it alive. We'll just have to keep moving with the times and keep producing films.
Okay. Are there still any cinematic aspirations that remain unfulfilled?
Yeah, I would rather pass this onus on to a producer, a future producer or director. I don't really know, I don't have the capacity to be able to tell them, hey, let's do this, because I haven't done it or something like that. I would rather that some director thinks about something that he would wish for me to do and then throw it to me as a challenge. It's a gauntlet that I would love to pick up. And when Sanjay Leela Bhansali proposed Black for me, it was a huge challenge, and to work, to learn the language, to study their characters and so on. When Balki did Pa with me, and to come to know about progeria and playing a 13-year-old, these are all experiences that makes it very exciting.
Yeah.
And I shall always look out for such instances, but I will not be able to. I never knew what Balki was thinking or what Sanjay was thinking before. I didn't go to them and tell them, make a film on progeria, or make me let me play a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I never did. They did, and thank God for that, because I don't really have that capacity. But I would love to have a challenge thrown at me and see if I can handle it.
So, as much as you love challenges, how come you never tried your hand at direction? I mean, was that or writing a movie?
I don't know direction, really. I still marvel at the fact at some of these youngsters and how well equipped they are and how knowledgeable they are about cinema and where to place the camera and where to edit it and how long the shot should be. It's a marvel. I will not be able to do that. I'd need to go to a school to train.
What about writing a movie? Did you never?
No, I've never. I don't have that capacity. If there is something that is already written, and if I'm going to discuss something with a director, before going on set, of course, then I would love to discuss and give my point of view. But most of the time it gets rejected, so I've stopped doing that.
In an interview, I think that you'd given to CNN, you'd said that the one thing that distinguishes our industry is that it's like a fraternity. It's like a very, very it's like a family. It's very closeness. It's incestuous. Does it have its downsides as well? This very close. Not close. I mean, there are lots of people coming in, but the proximity, the fact that everyone is very tightly knit with each other. Does it have its downsides as well?
I don't see why there should be a problem there.
It's very unique to us, isn't it?
Well, I would look upon it as a challenge, really, another challenge, to be on backslapping terms with your colleague. Yet when the camera goes on, you would not hesitate to slap him if you were required to do that.
Yeah.
And how to convert that emotion so quickly and so rapidly and so effectively.
Yeah.
I think that is a quality in itself.
Yeah. You said you couldn't think of cinematic aspirations that you have for yourself. But if you were to wish something for our movies, what would you wish for them? I mean, something that you'd like our movies, somewhere you'd like them to go, or something that you'd like them to achieve.
I think that we are moving quite well. I'm happy that our products that were looked upon very cynically and very negatively by the overseas audiences, in particular the Americans and in the United Kingdom, have now changed their minds about us.
Yeah.
Things that we would never imagine are now virtually being considered and looked upon by them. There are, I don't like the word crossover, there are films where Indian artists are being taken in their films and vice versa. You had one of the largest stores in the United Kingdom in London, Selfridges, celebrate Indian cinema for one entire month by decorating their entire store and their windows depicting the theme of Indian cinema. Where would you have ever imagined this, in the 1940s or 50s or even the 60s? These are things that make me happy. I like the fact that if I am traveling abroad and I meet somebody who doesn't look an Indian, who doesn't speak the language, yet recognizes you. And that's a great achievement. These are all very heartening things that are happening to us. And I would want it to spread even more. I was at an event in Jaipur a couple of years back, and I was stepping out of the hotel, and there were many tourists that were, about to leave the hotel as well, and there was a huge group of Chinese who were on their way to see some of the sights, and one of the girls just broke away from that group, came and touched my feet and said namaste, and I said, gosh, where are you from? She said, I'm from China and I watch your films and we love it, and these are some of the customs and traditions that we've picked up after seeing your films.
That is incredible.
That's very heartening to know, that it's not just the star value, but it's some of the other traditional values of the country and our culture that is also being imbibed by them. I remember after Bachchan was released, which, as you know, was made by B.R. Chopra and directed by Ravi Chopra, and had the story about the father and their children who had maltreated the father. And at about 3 o'clock in the morning, Ravi Chopra got a phone call from an absolute outsider. And he said, Mr. Ravi Chopra, you don't know who I am. I am so-and-so, and I'm calling you from London. I have just walked out of the theatre after seeing Bachchan. I want to tell you that my father and me had a dispute. We both live in the same city, but I haven't seen him for 25 years. I've rung up to tell you that I'm going straight to my father and telling him I'm sorry. That was just so moving. So if when you have these kind of incidents happening, then you feel good about what you're doing.
Yeah. I think this would be a good note to end the interview.